Does anyone have any burning questions about tarot while we wait a few more minutes before starting officially? How do? How do? I love that. That's a really great question.
Why do some have a sign when some have a planet, and those are kind of interchangeable? And you're like, I don't know why those kind of originally.
So depends on what side of history you're on and who you believe. But my philosophy is most of this stuff comes out of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. So they came together and syncretized a beautiful system of magic, which is very admirable, it's very brainy, it's very heady, it's very ritualistic. And in so doing, they brought a lot of systems together, two of those main systems being the Kabbalah, which became the Hermetic Kabbalah when they messed with it, when they remixed it, and astrology. And the 7 classical planets in astrology, if you use the 7 classical planets in that way, the number system of astrology matches up with the Hebrew letter system. And the system uses the number 3, 7, and 12, based on what the Hebrew letters do. So there's 7 double letters, there's 12 single letters in Hebrew, and there's 3 mother letters. Now that corresponds to the 3 major elements. I know there's 4 elements, but don't worry, we'll get to that later. The 3 major elements, the 7 classical planets, and then the 12 signs of the zodiac. So this 3, 7, and 12 dance is like a really big thing, and I will share with you a Joe original that you will not find in any book, actually. Is everyone with me, by the way? I get excited, I talk really fast. There's something called the Tetractys, and nobody talks about this. And I've been asking the universe to educate me on this, because when I saw this symbol, I was like, you ever see a symbol and you're like, I know it, I don't know where, but I just know it? So this happened to me when I saw this symbol. I was like, this is so familiar. And so I've been asking the universe, like, give me more of this. And then one day it made sense, because I study a lot of mysticism, I research a lot of things, and then I kind of like cross-reference with my experience and the experience of other like mystics and weirdos and mystical misfits. So this is the Tetractys right here. The Tetractys, what it does is, what I eventually found out is it's like the Tree of Life in Kabbalah and like most kind of, like the tarot, like any tool for spirituality. It acts as a bridge between this moment, which appears to be finite, and the infinite, which we intuit as infinite, right? So if I were to ask you, can you find the edges of your body? Can you do that? Yeah, yeah? Can anyone not find the edges of your body? Cool, like if I go like my fingers to fingers, head to toe, right? You find the edges. Can you find the edges of your mind? Right? Can anyone? If you can, you might need help, and that's okay, because we're all here. But so that very thing, why do we intuit this infinite feeling in our minds, yet we have this finite experience in our body, is really the source question of most mysticism and a lot of philosophy as well. And so what mysticism and by mysticism, what I'm talking about is the art or method of building a bridge between the finite and the infinite, which is what tarot does. Now I'm going to bring this back, don't worry. The Tetractys is one of those methods. So the idea is the ultimate ground of being, the oneness, which we all are, we're all one, is represented by this point. And the materiality, the 4 elements, the 4 seasons, our experience of finite in incarnation is the 4 points down here. And the bridge from one to the other is either manifestation, going downwards, getting what you want, putting something into concrete reality, or ascent into awakening, into complete spiritual enlightenment, samadhi. There's a lot of words for it, moksha, liberation. Astrology, and this also mirrors the Hebrew alphabet as well, and what a lot of the kind of Western magic, Greek, Kabbalah, Neoplatonist lineage-ish of this kind of stuff, which is very hard to kind of trace, but you see like these similarities. We look at these 2 rows, 7. So there's a very big mystery between the number 3 and 4. All the numbers are sacred, let's be honest. There's no one number like, that's the sacred. They're all sacred, right? Because they come from here, right? We project them, right, into our virtual realities of experience. 3 is 3 modes in astrology. 4 is 4 elements. 3 times 4 is 12 signs. You get all of astrology from these 2 rows. Up here, you get all the trinities, all of the threeness. You get the duality, you get the unity up here. So to answer your question, why are there certain ones being planets and certain ones being signs? It's because some of them are in a group of 7 classical planets, and some of them are in a group of 12 zodiacal signs. Because 3 plus 4 is 3, plus 4 is 7, 7 classical planets. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 signs of the zodiac. So these numbers play in and out of each other and create pretty much the entire backbone of the Western esoteric traditions. And that's a Joe original. You won't find that in a book. Now, what I'm going to tell you next allows you, if you choose, to throw everything I just said away. So you can go beyond that, and you can say, that's cool, and you can live in the world of time and astrology and juggle numbers and find meaning, which is what we're doing all the time in this moment, right? And it's so much fun, right? Look how much fun we're having. We're incarnated, we're feeling things, we're Anahata's purpose, right? There is a choice, and this is where mysticism or high magic comes in, where if you choose, you might want to give up the joys and the sorrows of daily life. And that is the path of mysticism. And that is when you leave this and you enter this, which is the 2. And the 2 is to ground it in the most simplest way. It is what the yogis say when they say dharana or dhyana. It is the form of meditation when you look at something and the only thing is what you're looking at. That's the only thing that exists. So it's a really hard place to reach. It's a form of meditation where you have this constant flow. Only Joe's phone exists. Wow. I'm not saying I've gotten there, but it's there. It's a thing, right? And then if you can get there, where only the phone exists and nothing else, no pleasure, pain, just pure whatever you're focusing on, you can go even further into pure samadhi, which is the oneness. And that's when you blend into the boundless oceanic consciousness, everything that is. Now, as much as I'd like to say I'm talking out of my ass, a lot of this is like in every tradition, so I can point you to a lot of books that talk about this more if you want to go more into this stuff. But I just want to paint this picture for you on, not that it's a hierarchy, but there are like different planes of working. So like you might have heard there's like high magic and low magic, and both of them are fun. They have different purposes. That's the same. Low magic is down here. I want a result. I want to get this thing. Totally valid, totally normal. It's the equivalent in the Vedas to what's called the karma kanda. Working your karma, getting what you want, doing the rituals so that you have a good life, you're a good person, ethical, all that stuff. You make other people happy. And then the opposite of that would be maybe high magic or mysticism, which is the jnana, or I don't know how to say the word, jnana kanda, which is the Vedanta, the ends of the, I'm kind of on this Vedanta kick. So the end of the Vedas is when it says, okay, you've spun around samsara, you've had these great lives, you've went to heaven, you've had these riches, you were a great person, maybe almost a saint. But here you are and it wasn't enough. And then they say, if you want to let it all go and merge with the ultimate ground of being, here's Vedanta. And that's a whole form of mysticism. The reason why I'm telling you this is because it's actually getting to my first point. I guess class has started, so we'll just keep going. The reason why I'm telling you this is because one thing, there's 2 major uses of tarot, and both of them are working to in some way aid or help or assist or delete suffering, right? We don't approach tarot and like, I'm feeling great, let's look at something. Like, we approach tarot with a question. We don't always have to be suffering to approach tarot, but it's used to reflect, but usually there's some sort of thing we want to move into or shift or know about ourselves. And there's two main uses of tarot generally, and this is very, very generally speaking, and this is also just my opinion, but there's the one that's very common that we all know, and we're going to learn all that today. By the end of this class, if you pay attention and if you stay open, I promise you, not only will you give a successful reading today, but you'll be able to go out and read any tarot deck, which I'm really excited to do. It's really fun. That's cool. That's one of my favorite parts of tarot. I've been doing it for over 2 decades now, and it's a very healing practice for yourself, for other people. It's really cool. That type of tarot I call divination. It's working in the world of time. It's looking at what is my past, what is my present, what is my future. It's making those HD predictions, if that's your style. Or it's just exploring yourself. Let me reflect on myself and check in with myself. It doesn't have to be fortune telling, but there is something about reflection, getting more information, and revealing yourself in that moment by reflecting on symbolism and archetypal imagery that has been, deduced and put together for hundreds of years. We're all familiar with that, yes? I'm sure most people here have either gotten a tarot reading or are familiar with that process. Cool. That's what we all know tarot to be. That's awesome. I love that. I did it for a living for a long time. I still do it for a living, and now I teach it for a living. And it's super freaking cool, and it's so healing. It takes healing into your own hands, and I'm really excited to share that with you. There's another aspect of tarot, and I want to present it to you, and I'm not going to talk about it as much. I talked about it more yesterday in the Hermetic Kabbalah class, but I want to present it because it's what I want to see personally more in the world, and I find it to be even more fun sometimes. And it's the more esoteric side of tarot. And if divination is working in the world of time, who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I now? Where am I going? What do I need to know? The esoteric side is working with the timeless. It's working with eternity. So, and it sounds like epic because it is, but also when you read any occultist's book on the tarot, which is what influenced modern tarot today, you'll notice that they have a whole page on the esoteric ideas of the card, and then 2 little lines on the divinatory meaning, right? I'm not talking about modern authors. I'm talking about like Eliphas Levi and Arthur Edward Wade and Aleister Crowley, like the OG esoteric tarot creators, right? They write so much about this deep symbolism, and they're like, oh yeah, if it appears in a reading, it means like a dude who's not married, like really like, what? Like arbitrary, kind of. The reason why that is because they're focused more on the occult side of things, which is where tarot becomes 78 memes of consciousness. Everyone knows what a meme is, right?
Yeah.
The best way I can describe, and that's another Joe original, 78 memes of consciousness. It's going to be my book one day. And when you're working with it that way, the Hierophant doesn't talk about dogma, and it doesn't talk about going back to school, but it talks about, it asks you the question, what is the link between the infinite and the finite, for example? And actually every card starts to ask that question and shows and symbolizes that question and that quest in a different way. And when you start looking at tarot in that way, where the symbols are showing you these very existential things, cool things happen. And then you may arrive at a point where it like doesn't matter where I come from or where I'm going, because there is no where I come from or where I'm going, you know? So that's another approach. And yeah. So hi, my name's Joe Monteleone. I'm super excited to be here. This is like one of my favorite weekends of the whole year. This is such an amazing event. Thank you so much, Rachel. And I'm so happy to be with you all. It's such a cool community. My whole thing is I'm here to end suffering, for me at least. That's all I can do. And I think that, I know that sounds like a vast goal, right? But it's like, what other logical goal do we have? I mean, I feel like that's what we're all trying to do, is like lessen pain and increase pleasure, right? So yeah, the way I do that is through tarot. And the 2 ways I do that in tarot is divination, looking at myself, my past, present, future, for me, for other people, looking into the world of time, and through the mystical aspect of tarot, which is like, okay, what the fuck am I really? And that's more of the brain melting mystical side of things. And I play with both. I have a school called the Tarot Mysticism Academy. We're an international online school. We're in over 15 countries now, and we have hundreds and hundreds of hours of material. I have a huge curriculum with 4 major courses in that curriculum, starting from what I'm going to teach you today would be like the crammed course 1 into this hour or and a half or so. And then it goes on to an esoteric course where I teach Kabbalah, Hermetic Kabbalah, Astrology, the Thoth deck, Rider-Waite-Smith, and then I teach expert level classes on the Thoth deck. And then I also do masterminds where I teach people how to be a professional reader ethically and how to actually make money. But I will say that as a Capricorn, I am a really good investor. I don't know what those Congress people are doing, but what I am investing in is consciousness, and that's what the tarot expresses. So that's why we're here today. Cool. Let me see if there's anything I didn't go over. Kind of just flew through the intro. Any questions so far?
So, zero experience. This is just like, I've always been super curious, and so here I am. So it's asking if I'm going slow down the pace or anything, if it's going to be too much over my head, or if it's not a beginner course that.
Yes. Thank you for that. The rest of the class, I'm glad that you said that, is going to be practical tarot. How do you read it for yourself or for someone else? How do you get information from the cards as a reading, as like a divination? Like, do I want to look at, if you have a question for it, for example, or if you want to look at like past, present, future. Very practical, and I'm going to, so let's talk about that. So what I'm going to teach you in this class is, so I started tarot like a long time ago. I was like very young, and I was so excited. I opened up these cards. I'm like, I'm going to be a tarot reader. This is going to be so cool. And I was like, 78? 78 fucking cards? And reversals! What? Oh, and the books that were out there at that time, there were a lot of great books, but they weren't like today, where everyone and their mom has an intro to tarot book. It's like, I was like, what the hell? So it took me a long time. So what I'm going to teach you today is what essentially you might not find in books, but is a system of tools to read the cards without having to memorize. Now, I am going to give you a lot of ideas to use for that process, so you may choose to memorize the ideas I present to you, which I do recommend, because it'll help you build a relationship with tarot, but essentially, you're not going to, if you don't want to memorize a thing, that's okay. But yeah, let me see. So everyone has their card, right?
She needs to get a card.
Who needs to get a card? Yeah, come. Oh, don't look at it if you can. I mean, if you look at it, it's okay, but.
We don't look at it.
Mm-hmm. So I want to say that nothing that's cool is like easy, right? Nothing that's worth doing is like really easy at the end of the day. So tarot is kind of like that too, and if you want to get good at it, you're going to want to practice. But it doesn't mean, it's like singing. Like I can't sing, but I can physically sing, and it's fun sometimes. But I'm not going to perform for people. Like there's a joy in it, and there's a use in it, and you can make your own practice that works for you. It's choose your own adventure, okay? And I want everyone to have that gift because it can really delineate a lot of really cool things in your world and outside of your world. And what is tarot? Tarot is 78 memes of consciousness. Tarot is a psycho-spiritual historical amalgamation of symbols. Tarot is probably not a spell book from ancient Egypt, though maybe. Tarot is definitely a spiritual technology with alchemical, hermetic, Kabbalistic, astrological, superfragic, Kabbalistic, expialidocious, magical, esoteric influences. And it is a method of divination and spiritual unfoldment. It is definitely the gateway drug into the occult. So I got you now. So let's jump in. Okay, there's 3 ways you can get information in a reading. And by the way, everything I say is just the way I view the world. It's all my reality tunnel, so you don't have to agree or align, but you don't have to resist. You can just chew on it like good philosophy. I had a philosophy teacher once. She was like, philosophy is like vegetables. You got to chew on it to get the nutrients. She was so funny. But okay, so yeah, just play with the information that I give you, and it'll make things happen. So to give a reading, there's 3 major ways that we pull information. They're all really one, but I'm going to divide them because we like to do that, right? There's your physical senses, which is what do I physically see on the card? Okay, that's number 1. So I might look at this guy, girl, non-binary person, whatever, and I might say, okay, what do I physically see? I see a human figure on a cliff, and there's a dog in the corner. Boom. You know, that's a reading. You know, it's a starting point there. Number 2, intellectual senses. What do you think about the card or know about the card? So this is when the memory of your memorized meanings comes in. But the thing is, you don't have to have memorized readings, especially for this class. So I look at the card. Everyone can see the Fool, right? And I might say, okay, I see that this human is stepping. Their weight is mostly on the front foot. So it looks like they're about to take a step, but they're on a cliff, so that they might fall. Now, they're not falling in the card, but my intellectual senses say they might fall if I pressed play, right? So I might say, okay, there's some risk here. Like, do they know that they're on a cliff, right? And now everything I just said to you could be a metaphor that you could take into your own life right now, right? There's a level of risk. Do we know where we are? There's always a risk in everything that we do, right? So that's a reading right there. And that just came from me thinking about the card. I might also say, oh, I see sunlight. And sunlight to me means warmth. So I'm getting this sense of warmth and care and maybe some support. Okay? I might go into that direction a little bit. Yeah, I might see this white rose or lily and I might say, oh, maybe that means purity to me just in this moment. So I might start talking about purity. This is not from my understanding of the card. This is me just looking at the image, right? So we all understand the intellectual side of things, just making sense of it. The third one is intuitive senses, what pops in your mind naturally, what just comes right in. Now, this is sometimes the challenge here is the intellect will come in and try to mess with the intuition. And I'm going to tell you the difference between the intellect and the intuition. The intellect is always divisive for our betterment or not. It's always divisive. It works in a binary. It's like the matrix, the code of the matrix. Your intellect will have you in a labyrinth of possibility. So you're going through this labyrinth and the intellect says, okay, to get out of this labyrinth, what am I going to do? Well, I've made 2 lefts and 5 rights, and now I have this way, that way, and that way. And it tries to think its way from all the possible choices to get out of the labyrinth. And that's useful for certain scales of reality. The intuition is like if you flew up out of the labyrinth, saw the whole labyrinth at once, and saw the way out. Okay? Make sense? The reason why is because and I'm working from a Kabbalistic model here. You don't have to know what that is, but if you do, that's cool. So the model is that the intuition is up here, which is that we can see it all at once, and we can kind of just kind of get, because the intuition comes at once, right? You have that intuitive hit is just like, oh, yeah, it all comes. It's like a flash. The intellect is like, boop, 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 boop. It's very sharp. It's a process. So the intuition is up here, and the intuition floods into the intellect. And that's where we start to divide the world and make sense of the world and create name and form and all of that. And then the intellect further comes down into the physical body, in this model at least, and the physical senses. So that's what I'm talking about when I say there's 3 ways of getting information, 3 aspects of ourselves. So the intuitive sense is whatever just pops up in the room. So the Fool, I could say in this moment, there's like a curiosity, there's a wonder, there's a sense of the unknown. Oh my God, what's he going to talk about next? This guy's so weird, whatever. Like, yeah, there's this like quantum foam moment. So those are the 3 sources of information from the cards. Everything else that you learn in tarot will flow into that. Most of what you study in tarot, if you choose to study it, like read books, take courses, whatever, will go into the intellectual senses, which will support what you are physically looking at and what you are intuiting. Now, there are readers that don't use some of these as much as others. Some readers are purely intuitive, and that's super cool. Some are purely intellectual. They're very technical. They know the history and the symbolism and the systems of the cards. Some readers are just in the clouds, and they're just pulling things from the Akasha right and left, bop, bop, and they read you like the back of a candy bar. And that's cool too. I've had readings with both of them, and I've played with both sides. But yeah, does everyone understand these 3 simple methods of getting information? Cool. Any questions so far?
What happens? I know what happens, but what is your best advice for when like they contradict or they don't fully align with one another, the intellect and the intuition?
Yes, when the intellect and the intuition doesn't align with one another, generally I would say go with the intuition. That's my first answer, because the intuition is higher as like a plane energetically. It's just you're using. There's a lot of ways to look at the intuition. Manly P. Hall, brilliant esoteric Mason, all that, he talks about intuition as this place where all of your senses come together and like rapid fire meaning so fast, like subconsciously. It's actually very much in your body, that you're faster than your mind itself. So in that way, the intuition is kind of like all things working together. It's very holistic. So I would say go with the intuition. But the kicker is, and I won't go into this, I promise, it's a weird one, but the intuition and the intellect and the physical senses are actually not separate. They're all the same thing. So if you feel a disconnect between what you logically want to say and what you're intuiting, that's something you have to ask yourself, is that yours or is that the client's? And then that will lead into a whole beautiful moment and realization, yeah. And that's common, that's cool. Cool, so let's jump in. Does everyone have a tarot card? if you don't have a card, come and pick one. So what you're going to do is whatever question, if you had a question coming up, picking a card, remember it. If not, that's okay. You're going to trade cards, and I'm going to ask that you read each other. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind. When reading for someone, when getting a reading, whatever they say to you is yours to interpret. So if you have an emotional reaction to something someone says to you, that's yours, okay? If it bothers you, that's okay. Explore that. There are cards that are not fun, but there are moments in life that are not fun. And it's up to you. If you want to face that, that's cool. And if you don't want to, that's okay. You can put a pin in it and be like, oh, that might be this thing. You can always tap out and be like, all right, enough. Like if you're not feeling comfortable, obviously boundaries, be like, okay, stop. But yeah, I would say my recommendation is when you're getting a reading, be willing to receive whatever is showing up for you. Reading tarot is a gift. And to be honest, if it's okay if it doesn't make sense. And if you don't like it, that's okay too, because you could just throw it away. They're just words, But it's the reactions to the words that we want to look for. In reading, I'm going to tell you that, well, there's ethics too, but the worst thing that can happen is a paper cut, right? So you can give accurate information, you can give inaccurate information, and then you can give what I call the matrix effect. Now, if you haven't watched The Matrix, close your ears, but it's 2022, so it's your fault. The matrix effect is when you tell someone inaccurate information, but it actually helps them. Like, remember the oracle when she's like, sorry, hon, you're not the one? Mm-hmm. Right? So those are the three types of information. If you give inaccurate information, it's cool. Doctors do it like 40% of the time. They misdiagnose. So, and look how much money they're making. Oh, yeah. So it's fine. It's cool. I find that when the most important thing, well, there's so many important things, but the most important thing is to go in a reading with the intention, this is going to be done with ease, this is going to be fun, and this is going to be for the highest good for me, them, and the whole world. I know it's like a little cheesy, but it shapes your experience. Like, go in, this is going to be easy, or with ease is better, because it's not always easy, but it can be done with ease. Ease, joy, and glory. Fun, and for the highest good of all. And I find, in my experience, having taught hundreds of people from around the world and doing this for so long, that when you go in with that intention, you can't fail, okay? So have that intention, set that intention for yourself if you'd like, and yeah, I'm going to ask that you read for each other. Remember, we have 3 ways we can get information without even opening up a tarot book. Physical senses, you can pull the card and start just describing what you see. Intellectual senses, you can start making sense and making deductions based on what you see. What could the card mean? What could it hint at? What do the symbols mean to you in this moment? If you press play, what would happen? Just start talking about that, And the third one is intuitive senses. Now, being that you're at this event, I would imagine a lot of you guys are very, very intuitive, very empathetic, very psychic. So that might be the only thing you use, or maybe the first thing you use. So you might want to jump into that. Whatever comes to your mind first, just let it out. Cool. So you'll have like about 2 minutes each. And I want you guys to actually, I know it sounds like a lot of time. It's funny. When I started reading tarot, I was like, how do people read for an hour? What? And it's, you get into it. So I'm going to invite you to, let's do 6 minutes, 3 minutes each. Yeah, because I want to invite you to be with the card and not, you're going to want to do a good job, or maybe you're not, I don't know who you are, but like, I want you to just sit with it and let things come. And if that's you sitting for 2 minutes and 59 seconds, and at the last moment saying, take the leap of faith, it's the Fool, then that's what it is. And if you do that one sentence could change a few billion things in their mind. It could be a miracle, okay? So sit with it. Don't rush yourself. You have 3 senses. Not only that, but you have a whole life of experience to explore with this. But yeah, have fun. I will see you all at 2:34. All right, so who wants to tell me how that was? And it's okay if it wasn't good, or if whatever it was, it's allowed. And if it's okay if it was miraculous.
Great.
Was it?
I had a great experience. We won't go into it, obviously, because it's personal. But what I love the most about it is how you're just talking about what it is that you're seeing, right? Being intuitive, and then allowing the other person's psyche, using it almost like a tool to get to the things that they need to find.
Oh, I love that. Yes. That.
It being the other person's stuff, having the emotions come up, it is mine because it's triggering the things that I need to address.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Yes. There's this like feedback loop, and you're holding this space, and things come up, and it's really cool. But it's also like just symbols, so there's like a safety to it as well. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Stoked. She was great. So I tend to be a very closed, compartmentalized person, and I intellectualize everything. So like feelings, you know. And she just kind of pried the lid right off without any regard. So it was really great. Yeah. She dug up a whole lot that I didn't even know I brought here. So it was really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm holding it together.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fantastic. She
Oh,
was just,
great.
Like, right in there.
Awesome. Cool. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That
Sure.
means a lot. Yeah. That's beautiful.
My partner here is not familiar with like the Rider-Waite deck, so like all this imagery is kind of new to her, and so she went off what she felt from the card, and I thought she did a great job.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. I love that.
And she was also able to help me along the way. It was like, okay, well, what about this? And, you know, it was interacting both ways, was able to go and get the message that we were both trying to get to come to fruition and make sense.
Cool. I love that. Nice. Yeah.
So having no experience and no idea what anything.
She killed it. Can we have a moment when your partner says you killed it? I want you to receive that, because it's very easy for us to say, well, you know, it was this or that. If you did an amazing job and your partner's like, no, you really killed it, like receive that. And this is your first class ever. Spot on. Boom. That's a testimonial. I love it. Congrats. That's amazing. That's really it. You know, like tarot and the Western esoteric traditions through which tarot orbits around, it's like, it's so technical, and it's so conceptual, and it's so heady. You know, we all know a good armchair magician, occultist, right? It's so brainy, and that's cool. Like, there's a place for that, because it's the intellect. But when you really, at the root of it, tarot is just looking at an image and reacting to it, or noticing your reactions to it, and just processing it, and it's meaning making, which is what we do, right? And meaning making is how we create our world, right? For better or for worse. And if you're in a class with me, you'll probably have some energetic connect, you know, we're probably similar in some type of, you're probably head trippers as well, overthinkers, right? I'm a big overthinker. I don't know if y'all are. I'm a big overthinker, right? So I'll tell you, honestly, tarot gives you something to overthink about. Right? So you take tarot and it's like, okay, I'm overthinking about the situation. Let me just look at these images and actually sit with my thoughts with these images. And you start to notice how you're making meaning and how you might want to make meaning differently. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, not to project on all of you. I know a lot of overthinkers. You know, we have a good time. We head trip, you know, we're very creative, you know, sensitive feelers. Cool. Let's see. Anyone else want to share about their experiences?
I know she kind of hit on the overthinking situation. It was really funny because I didn't have a question or anything, but my universe definitely knows that. Sometimes I just need like a reassurance every so often, being like, "You're still doing fine. You're fine. You're fine."
Yeah.
And she was able to like kind of hit that, but then she gave like a little miniature, like intuitive side outside of the card, which was really interesting, and I was just like, okay, hello.
Yeah, cool. Congrats. Nice. Very cool. Did anyone get any challenging cards or bad cards?
So I feel like I'm struggling
Mm-hmm.
because I flip the card over and I just get one word, and it's a big word, but it doesn't mean anything, she thinks, to her.
Okay.
And so it may be a case of an inaccurate read, or it may be something that I guess it hasn't come to her yet. How do, like, I couldn't really expound on it anymore other than say, this is the word I'm getting, but it's kind of huge.
Yeah.
It's a big word.
Yeah. So I would trust it, and it might not be hers. Could be another person in this room. You know, we're all very aware. We're all very psychic. We're all very sensitive. We're constantly picking up on each other. It could be something that hasn't come yet, or it could be an inaccurate read, or it could be the matrix effect, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like I'm letting her down by not giving her, like, expounding on it and giving her more information.
I feel like
But-
more it's like something I just don't know yet, because like the question was very vague, so it's like that is an
We
answer.
both had vague questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I would, you know, some things are,
It may not be for now.
yeah, it might not be for now. I would get in touch and check in a week or in a few weeks if you want. Yeah. I have a lot of people, you know, sometimes I get like, sometimes I used to like not read time, really, I wasn't really interested, wasn't really my forte, and then I was like, maybe it's time to read time. And then I had like, you know, go into like, how long is it gonna take until so-and-so texts me back or whatever, you know, like, and so I was like, okay, universe, I guess I'll start reading time, and I started like getting into that, what was for me a little bit uncomfortable, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on time, I'm gonna connect with my intuition, and then I started getting all of these confirmations from people months after the reading. Oh my God, you said mid-May, it was May 15th, and we got the new house, like all over the place. So the reason why I'm telling you this is you can ask the universe for confirmation. And confirmation is really fun because it shows you that you actually, because, you know, I'm a skeptic. I'm a Capricorn, a dirty Capricorn, like earthy, like we don't believe in any of this shit, right? It took me 15 years to even consider that this stuff had something to it. I know, right? And now I'm at House's Purpose, and we're doing all this magical stuff. It took me a long time. So confirmation is really cool. It helps you realize what your skills are and what you can do. So ask the universe for confirmation. Maybe try giving readings to some other people today if you want, if you feel comfortable, and say, all right, universe, show me what you got. Show me what I got. It'll come. Yeah. And there's an art, too, to telling somebody information that's not totally accurate. Like if you just deliver it. Sales? Did someone just say sales? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Anyone else want to share about their experiences?
I thought mine was really funny because I had a very vague question. Mine was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I
That's a very valid question, though.
Rachel knows. And so this was my card. And she goes, they're like bickering over stuff, and I was like, yeah, these are my personalities. And I can't make up my mind. You see the struggle on everybody's face?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, so it's a confirmation for me, but I mean, she was the same way. She just started looking into tarot and stuff like that, so she's like, I think this is what it means. I'm like, no, it does. These are my boys.
I love that. I love that. That's so cool.
I think we were the same way, only neither one of us knows that much. Yeah. And I was terrified when I turned over the card because I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to pick up anything or understand anything I'm seeing.
She almost made me cry.
And so as were you, and it answered the question that I needed, and we were just looking at the images. But there's a certain amount of play off of each other and listening, which I think also plays a part in it. So.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Congrats. Yeah, that's the work. That's it. Like, yeah. Oh, you guys are so fun. This is so cool. Some groups are just like, it's like pulling teeth. But this one, yeah, I love it. Congrats, everyone. This is really awesome stuff. So really give yourself a round of applause. That's all there is to it. And now you have this foundation. Everything else you learn about tarot is building on this one gift that you already have. And that gift is consciousness, just awareness. What am I physically looking at? What can I deduce logically, intellectually from this card? What can I intuit? That's it. And it's all really the same thing. Yeah, cool. That's awesome. So, moving forward, now what I'm going to do is give you all some more tools to apply to the intellectual layer. Doesn't mean you have to, but being that it's a class, I want to like teach you some ways to more easily memorize the cards if that's what you want to do, or more easily get meanings. By the way, you know what? Another thing, by the way, another Joe Original, all the cards are active all the time. So whatever card you do pull, I know this is like a weird one, but like whatever card you do pull, you're going to resonate. After a certain amount of years of life in this world, every card in some way will become some sort of relevant to that moment. Because the tarot is a psychospiritual technology that expresses the human condition, the human experience. It's only 500 years old, like the tarot, but it pulls from symbols and philosophical systems and mystical systems that are maybe 1,000 years old or more. So it's like, and these aren't like crazy weird things, they're just like life, you know? It's just like living. It's very archetypal. Carl Jung is a lot of times connected with tarot in a lot of New Age circles, because he's all talking about the archetypes, the patterns behind the backstages of conscious reality, right? So they're all relevant. So that's another thing. But yeah, so what I'd like to do now is give you guys a couple tools. So I can teach you the minor arcana or the majors or both. I have done both in one class, but it can be overwhelming. So what I'm going to ask y'all is we'll take a vote if you want to start with major arcana. Oh, let's talk about the structure of the tarot. So the tarot has a structure, okay? So I get so excited, you know what I mean? The tarot has a structure, and there's 3 major parts to the tarot. Well, there's 2. There's the major arcana and the minor arcana. The major arcana means major secrets. The minor arcana means minor secrets. They are talked about this way, and it has to do with Kabbalah and the Tree of Life and other things related to the development of Western magic in different junctures in time. But the major arcana have names. So that's your classic traditional things you see on TV. The Death card, the Devil card, the World also though, the Star, the Fool, like these very archetypal beings that exist in all of us. These like, if you ever, Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, right? That's a big popular one compared to this, there's 22 of these major arcana, okay? Starting with the card 0, which is the Fool. The Fool in the sense is like you, the hero, the one that's going on the journey that is purely innocent, that is going to go through these majors and learn things and eventually finish the journey in the World card. So there's 22 of those. They're big boys. They're great, archetypal, very spiritual, oftentimes have to do with shifts, major spiritual and karmic shifts that are showing up for us. Notice that nobody got a major card today. We only worked with the minors in this exercise. But then, yeah, so those are the majors. The minors are the suited cards, what you guys have worked with today. All right, and the suited cards have 10 numbered pip cards. They're not really pip cards, but 10 numbered cards, ace through 10, and then 4 court cards, similar to a playing card deck. Playing cards do predate tarot, kind of, depends on what you define as tarot, but they do predate tarot. I won't get into the history, we'll be here all day. But if you have any questions on the history, we can have fun, we can chat. History is important, you know, it orients you. But yeah, then we have the minor cards, the minor secrets. And the minor secrets have 4 suits, 10 numbered cards, 4 court cards, page, knight, queen, and king in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Now the court card system and the suits are a little different depending on the deck, depending on the style, and depending on the tradition. But if it is tarot, it has to have a major arcana section and a minor arcana section. And usually that minor arcana section is going to have 4 suits. That's really what you need to make it tarot. And this is because of how it was introduced as early as 1400 CE in Italy. That's when it was like, oh, this is tarot now, because they added this mysterious 5th suit. And they were all about like going into the classics. They were fetishizing the old like Greek mythology and Greek philosophy and trying to bring that stuff back in the Renaissance, like we do today with like magic. We're like looking into the past to kind of to understand this work, right? It comes in waves. Cool. So the minor arcana cards have 4 suits, and the 4 suits are wands, cups, swords, and pentacles or discs or coins. And they are the 4 elements, right? Okay, now if you know about these 4 elements, throw your hands up. Cool, cool, love it. We'll talk about them. Well, maybe we will. So my question to you is, do you want to go into a sort of meditation where I will help you experience the major arcana cards as they exist inside of you already without learning them. That's option A. Option B is I teach you, from a more typical style like this, the minor arcana cards. And I will help you understand the minor cards through 14 simple ideas instead of 56 meanings.
Sure.
So yeah, let's take a vote. If you want to learn the majors, throw your hands up. If you want to learn the minors, throw your hands up. Okay, we'll do the minors. Okay, cool. So I love the minors so much because they get less attention than the majors, which is interesting because they are the points through which the majors travel. So if the minors are like these moments in life, these events, the majors are what's happening in the back stages of reality that shifts our energy to manifest those points represented by the minors. So the minor arcana are the people, places, and things that really, that are like memorable and that kind of help delineate our life. But notice how everything that you ever experience usually has some kind of source code in your energy, in your psyche, you intend for something to happen and then it happens. Or you're afraid of something, really afraid, and then your fear comes true, right? So that inner world is kind of like the majors and the outer world is the minors. So there's 56 minor arcana cards, and there's a lot of great books that will detail the meanings of these cards. I know a lot of really great authors that have written some great stuff on this, and I can recommend. If there's a specific area in tarot that you want to look into, let me know because I could probably recommend you a book or like a resource or something. Also my school because we cover like a lot, almost everything. But I can recommend you some really good stuff. Okay, so 4 elements. Let's talk about that. So because we don't all know the elements, I actually want to let's talk about that for a moment. So Greek philosophy was a big thing that prepared a lot of the development of the Western magical traditions. And there was a time, I don't know when it was definitely probably like 600 to 300 BC. I'm looking at Pythagoras, I'm looking at Empedocles, and other Greek philosophers. And the big question was, how does this all come to be, right? So people would say, well, the whole universe comes from water. And then someone would say, no, it's not water, it's clearly air, because air is space and air is everywhere. And they would be like, no, it can't be air, it must be fire, because fire transforms everything. It is only through fire. And so then you have this dude, Empedocles. He comes along and he's like, y'all are wrong. It's air, fire, water, earth, elements of astral birth. Boom, 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 boom. And so he comes and he's like, elements, get into it. And that's him. These workbooks are pretty good, right? You could download them for free.
What's his name again?
Empedocles. And he proposed this idea that, and it's not really it actually has a lot of, it's very much mirrored in certain Vedic philosophy and also some modern physics. And he kind of says okay, so there's 4 elements and they exist separately, but they slowly merge together to become one. And in so doing, that is an entire universe. And then when they're finally merged, there's nothing again. And then out of that nothingness, out of that merged mysterious nothingness, they start to separate themselves very slowly. And then billions and billions of years and aeons go by, and in that process, a whole nother universe happens. And then when all the elements are separated out into air, fire, water, earth, then we're back to zero. Nothing exists in a way, besides those 4 elements separate. And then it happens again and again. So there's this merging in and out. And this is a huge concept if you study a lot of anything in the occult or the Western esoterica. So yeah, that's what he said. And the idea is stuck. And now today, people are getting fancy with that periodic table and whatever. It's like we're not really, when we look at the elements, we're not necessarily looking at, okay, what are things physically made up of? But we're kind of looking at what are things psycho-spiritually made up of? So it's what are the patterns underlying my experience? So I might say I don't really care about all the cells that make up this person's body that I'm having an experience with, but I might care about what are the patterns underlying our relationship, and those patterns might show up in the 4 elements. Does that make sense? I mean, they could have a metaphysical thing as well. It's up to you to decide that. But yeah, so the 4 elements. And those are our 4 suits. And I'm going to tell you let's talk about them. So fire is wands. What does fire mean to you guys?
Passion.
Passion, yes, love it. Energy. Rebirth, love it. Refinement, I like that. Ooh, yeah. Any construction? Destruction, yeah, okay. What else? Anger, cool, yeah. Nice, yeah. So all of that is true. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but tarot is something you build up inside of you, like over time. So everyone's tarot is going to be different. So you want to choose what makes sense for you. But it is important, the more you want to grow into tarot, is to know what your tarot is and like feed it information and build a relationship with it, which will be unique to you, okay? So yeah, fire is creativity, power, spirit, and in the tarot, it's kind of like, it sometimes connects to business and your work, your career, also sexuality, your purpose, and it's all things related to the sun. Creativity in the sense of initiating. So in the sense of, I really want to do this thing. I feel compelled to do it. You're inspired. There's an impulse. Water. What do we have for water? Cups, yeah. What can water represent?
Emotions.
Intuition, emotions. Totally. Yeah. Reborn. I like that. Okay, yeah. There's a really deep thing with that, actually. You said reborn. Water as an element is the fulcrum point between self and selfless. You're either being reborn into manifestation or reborn into ascension. That goes into the mystical aspect, but yeah, that's a deep one. Someone said? Flexibility. Flexibility, cool. Yeah, flexibility. So water in the cup suit, it's all about creativity as well, but in a more receiving, like beholding the beauty of something. So after you've had that impulse, you create the thing, then you sit back and you're like, wow, that's beautiful. Or you're creatively kind of passively observing something or letting your mind wander. Love and relationships are big with the suit of cups. So in the sense of flexibility, what do relationships require? Flexibility, because it's not all about you, it's about the dance that you're doing with somebody else. So that's all water, that's all cups, emotions. It all has to do with receiving. So if fire and the wands is giving, is pushing energy out, the cups is pulling energy in, receiving. Intuition, like you said. Family, the moon. Swords is air, and what does air mean to people? Intellect, great. Yes, what else? Education, totally. Truth, absolutely. Yeah, so the swords show up for all these things. Intellect, the mind, logic, knowledge, education. Also the ego. And also what I have added for my tarot is technology, because we just live in that time. And technology, if anything, is a beautiful reflection of the ego. I mean, architecture itself is like a culture, politics, society. It is all a macro reflection of the ego. I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean that like, screw the system. I mean that in a very like literal, the way that things are set up, macro, micro, as above, so below, the ego is mirrored in the way things are built in social media, in buildings. So the swords is all of that. So the swords is mind, ego, intellect, society, conflict, symbols, language, thoughts, ideals, choices, all things which result from the hidden marriage of the previous two. So when you have this desire to create something in fire and then you receive something in water, that give and take creates this feedback loop between you and the world, and that is your ego. That feedback loop between what do I want to create, what do I want to receive, orients you in time. It gives you a past, present, future. It gives you a sense of self, okay? Because you're part of the conversation now in this reality. And try not to go into like too crazy like existential shit, but I just love that stuff. So the swords is like when people say like hermetic marriage or the sacred marriage, we're taking fire and water together, which is, it's like the inner world and the outer world. That's one way to look at it. And that relationship is the ego, which comes in the suit of swords, which is air. So the whole suit of swords has to do with that, the self, the ego, the intellect. The next suit is the suit of pentacles, which is related to earth. And what does earth mean to everyone? Strong, grounded, stability, yes. Manifestation, absolutely. Growth, yeah. So in the suit of pentacles, we take how we see ourselves. In the suit of swords is what we manifest for ourselves in our world in the suit of pentacles. In that amazing class that everyone was learning about money magic, right? It's all about, it comes in here first before it comes out there. Classic law of attraction, manifestation. If you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand, yeah? So we manifest externally what's happening internally a lot of the time, most of the time. I would even say all of the time. I would actually say both are mutually arising, but we're not going to get into that. So the suit of pentacles is the external world, matter, money, stuff. The pentacles can also be work, but more focused on like livelihood and security, whereas the wands is the work that you're meant to do, that you love to do. Cool. Any questions on the 4 elements?
I know you said that wands was like pushing and water, fire was pushing and water was receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I take that as being active and passive.
Yes.
Are swords and pentacles, are either of them active or passive, or where do they fall?
Great question. They mirror the same thing. Great insight. Swords are active in a way and pentacles are passive in a way. And for anyone that wants to go deeper into this work, if you want to study like I'm a sucker for the Tree of Life. I love Kabbalah. If you want to study that in the Tarot, everything I'm teaching you is preparing you to do that. So if you want to apply it to certain magical traditions and whatnot, you might find a lot of connections. So I try to cover as many bases, but yes. So the sword and the pentacle is like the inner world, the mind, and the matter that reflect this higher marriage of fire and water, the sun and the moon, totally. After this class, you should read the Emerald Tablet, and you'll see it all laid out for you. Emerald Tablet is a hermetic, very old, beautiful classic. That's where we get as above, so below from. And if you want to find me, we can have a conversation as above, so below. I have a YouTube video coming out about it. It's going to be so good. I'm really excited. Smash that subscribe button. Yeah. So 4 elements we're feeling comfortable with? Cool. Now I'm going to teach you 10 numbers, and we're going to, real simple, we're going to learn these 10 numbers. And there's, it's kind of like, you ever play, I don't drink anymore, but when I used to go to college, I went to Rutgers University, so we would play Kings. You know Kings, that drinking game where it's like floor.
Floor, yeah.
Yes.
7.5.
7.5, yeah, so that's what we're going to play, but we're going to play it without alcohol and with some magic. So the numbers game, 1 is beginning.
1 is what?
Beginning, the beginning of something. Now, the way I'm presenting it to you is a way that you can memorize these numbers, but it does link to the Hermetic Kabbalah kind of thing. So, and like Golden Dawn kind of stuff is kind of where it's linking to. But if you have different meanings for the numbers, that's cool. It's allowed. Discrepancy is good. It allows for more nuance. So 1 is beginning. Because what we're going to do, 1 is beginning, 2 is 2. You're going to something. 2 is 2. I'm going to something. There's here and there's there. There's directionality. There's two-ness. And 3 is receive. It kind of rhymes, I guess. 3 is receive. 3 it shows up for something developing, something taking form, and our ability to see the relationship of something. That's important. Because I can only see a relationship if there's 3, right? If there's me, if there's you, and if there's someone else. Because then I could watch the relationship. If there's only 2, then there's only one direction, one line, and it's only moving forward. It's just whatever I'm looking at. So 2 is really 1, right? And 3 is really 2. Does everyone get that? It's a little weird, right? It's a read flat.
In survivalism, where they say that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So that's kind of like,
Where does that from?
so my husband talking about like prepping their gear, like you want to make sure that you have two knives on you and you have 2 ways to make fire because 2 is 1 and 1 is not.
Ooh, I
Because
love
if your
that.
one item fails and you only have one of it, there's no backup.
Ah.
But if you have 2, you have a backup, so you have an alternate way to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, so 3 brings us this kind of sense of duality. Because if you have 3, you can observe the relationship of 2 others. That's the duality. I know we want 2 to be duality, but 3 is where it's at. Because 2 is just you. Does that make sense? You-ness. Oneness is just me-ness, which is none-ness. 4 is floor, stability. 4 legs on a table, 4 elements, 4 seasons. 4 is floor. Also sometimes rigidity, right? 4 is very structured, which is cool, but it can also get kind of boring sometimes. So because 4 can get boring, well, I'm going to wait till y'all finish writing because that's a good thing to do. So I'll just review what we have. 1 is the very beginning, is pure I-ness. 2 is 2, going to something, which is you-ness, pure you-ness. The only thing that exists is the idea of you. 3 is receive, the ability to receive multiple things. It's also duality, perceiving a relationship. 4 is floor, stability, 4 legs on a table. So 4 gets boring sometimes, so we have 5. 5 comes in, and 5 is survive. So 5 is challenges. 5 is motion in the ocean, sun in the sky. 5 is struggle. 5 is tension. But the tension helps the process move forward. Because I bet you've never created something without some sort of challenge, right? Like I said earlier, nothing cool is done with totally easy, right? There's always an effort. So the effort really comes in the number 5, survive. 6 is fix, harmony. So 6 is when we overcome the challenge in the 5. Harmony, help, assistance, compassion, guidance from somebody else, or being the guide to someone, or guidance from another plane, angels, archangels, spirits, if you want. Any kind of help, harmony, and fixing, overcoming. So 7 is engine, what keeps you going. So you just overcame something in the 6. So you had a challenge in the 5, you overcame it in the 6, and the 7 is that moment of like, okay, we fixed that, we're good, now I'm really going to drive this home. This is all a creative process, by the way. We're going from 1 through 10. So anything that you create, you can apply to these numbers. So 7 is engine, what keeps you moving, what motivates you, it has to do with desire. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to connect these 10 numbers to the 4 elements, and you're going to know 40 cards. Whoa! I know I usually give that at the end, but I want to plant the seed now because in the tarot, all the 7 of Wands, 7 of Cups, 7 of Pentacles, 7 of Swords, they all have to do with engine, the desire. But the weird thing about the 7s is there's a desire, but kind of a stop. And it's usually like 7s in the tarot especially is when you want something so bad that you push it away, or that you have to you want it so bad that you kind of stop, or like when you shift the gears I don't drive stick shift, but because I'm not that cool, but like when you in other people when they do that and it's like boom, and then it gets going, that's the 7. It's like the engine starts pushing the car, but there's this like stutter, whatever. That, yeah, I love that language. I don't speak it, but one day I want to. Can you teach me?
Cool, I'm so cool. Yeah, it's
I would love to. We should have a workshop. Yeah. So 7 is the stick. 8 is when you let go of your desire. You kind of surrender something in order to let things flow. So 8 is fate. So 7 is engine. 8 is fate. 7 is I want to get this done so much. Oh wait, it's not getting done. 8 is let me surrender and let it go and trust. And oh, now it's getting done. Yeah. So all the 8s in the tarot have some connection to that.
So like faith, like letting go,
Ooh,
having
faith. I said faith, but I like faith better. Yeah. 8 is faith. 8 is fate or faith. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. So 9 is finish line. 9 is the culmination of the process. Now, I know some people like 10 to be the culmination of the process, and I don't want anyone to feel butthurt about this, but it's actually 9. And it can be 10 for you because, you know, this is all flexible, but it's 9. And I'll tell you why. 9 is the finish line. It's the completion and this, like, you finish the journey. 10 comes back to the 1. So, are there any artists in here? What happens when you finish a work of art, you put it into the world? You start another one? Cool. What does your art do? It sits there. But it makes money. Okay. Joy. It gets admired.
It gets better because you've had the practice.
It gets better, yeah.
We talked about it yesterday.
Yes.
It's not yours anymore.
Yes. Was it you? Did you say that? You said this yesterday.
I thought about it.
So good. I love that. When you make a work of art, you let it into the world. It's not yours anymore. And what happens is that work of art, and whatever you create, Anahata's purpose, perfect example, right? It's out here. It's happening. Here we are. And it's the 9 of Anahata's purpose becomes a 10, and then it becomes all of our 1s, and it becomes the seed for our beginning of a journey, right? And that's the fractal nature of this stuff. So you finish a work of art, you finish a creative process, you put something together, a passion project, you let it go into the world, and it becomes the number 1 for other people to start their own thing, whatever that is, to learn, to grow. So these 10 numbers are the 10 numbered cards of the tarot. And when you take these 10 simple ideas and you multiply them by the 4 elements, you get 40 numbered cards, which is over half the deck. You don't have to memorize a single definition of the cards. You can just juggle the element and the number. Cool?
I'm a little confused on 10. Is 10 just kind of that back to 1?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't really explain that. Yeah. So 10 is excess. I didn't even tell you what was on this thing. So 10 is again, thank you for that. 10 means again, it's the excess of something. It's the aftermath of something, someone else's beginning. So it's like when you have too much of something, it is overflowing, you have to let it go into the world. So for example, in the 10 of Cups, we know that Cups has to do with, what does Cups have to do with? Relationships. Yes. And what does 10 have to do with? The aftermath of relationships. Oh my God, it's a family. Oh my God. Whoa. Literally the overflowing of life energy into another human. Yeah. Now that's a very literal one. They're not all that literal. Some of them are a little bit more abstract. What's important to understand about tarot is that the tarot, tarot exists archetypally in patterns. But every tarot deck is an illustration or example of that pattern. So some get literal, some get more abstract, but it's a rendition of these patterns. So yeah, cool. Any questions so far? Let's see what time it is. So now I will, let's see, it's 3:16, so I will give you some soft homework. What you can do now is you can take, and this works with any tarot deck, this is why this stuff is so cool. Take any tarot deck, take what you now know about the numbers, and take what you know about the elements, combine them all for each page on a journal, write a number and the element, and now you have 40 cards. So start with the Ace of Wands. What does Ace mean? So we can even go through it a little bit. I don't want to go through all the cards because you can deduce a lot of this yourself. But the aces, for example, is the beginning of something. Beginning of fire, beginning of a career opportunity, Ace of Wands. Ace of Cups, beginning of a relationship. Ace of Swords, beginning of an education. Ace of Pentacles, beginning of a job, beginning of a money investment. See what we're doing here? Yeah? This is it! Woo! Yes! It is the beginning of your tarot education. Yep. That's meta. I love it. Yep.
Next year you're gonna be
Yeah. Yep. We'll talk. Yeah. Totally. So you have this opportunity for something, and then the 2 comes in, and what does the 2 do? 2 means to something, yes. So in the 2 of Wands, he's like, where do I want to bring my career, my creativity next? Where do I want to conquer next? Fire. 2 of Cups, 2 going to someone. It's a relationship. Cups are a relationship. This is our dating card, our relationship card, the Lord of Love. 2 of Swords is a really fun one. It's the mind. Swords are mind. 2 is going to. It's about the mind going to somewhere. Notice how she's meditating. A lot of people think this is a card of being closed off, and it kind of is, but more deeply it's a card of just letting the mind focus on something, which appears to be closed off, but it's not. It's just in meditation. It's focused. Yeah? 2 of Pentacles is Earth, and you're going to something. Notice the ships behind him. There are these ships on these waves. So he's like, where do I want to travel next? Where do I want to move? Where do I want to move things, physical things in my world? Where do I want to move money? Where's the money going to? There's choices here. Cool. So that's the general idea. Is there anyone who has a card that wants me to explain that? 10 of Pentacles, great card. So actually, let's talk about that. So if we have 10, what is 10? Does anyone remember? Aftermath. 10 is again excess. Now, what is Pentacles? Money. So material. So we might have an excess of savings. Boom. An excess of money, excess of manifestation. Yeah, totally. All the fruits of your labor. Beautifully said. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else want to look at a card that they picked up through this method? 3 of Pentacles. Okay, so what is a 3? Receive. And what is Pentacles? Work, money, stability. So receiving material, receiving money. Now let's look at that 3 of Pentacles. What's it? Get the bag? So the 3 of Pentacles, somebody is receiving money for something that they're doing in this scene, or receiving material, or receiving some form of stability. There's an exchange going on. There's a collaboration. They're building something. They're looking at this archway and they're saying, okay, we're going to build this, we're going to do that. It's all about receiving this material endeavor, right?
Like a business relationship.
Totally could be a business relationship. Yeah, 3, relationship, perceiving a relationship. Pentacles, business, exactly. Yeah.
Did I tell you guys what the word was that I got
No,
earlier? Listen.
it was listen?
Listen.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
This puts it in a little bit more context, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Cool. I love that.
If ace means beginning, then what's the Lord and I said the wrong thing, the king and the queen and
Yes, that's next. We're going to do that now.
I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah. But no, thank you for reminding me, because sometimes Joe forgets. Joe burned most of his hard drive in his late 20s.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I noticed the 3 of Swords, they're stabbing into a heart.
3 of Swords, yeah.
Does the heart have any particular?
Yes, so 3 of Swords is a very deep card, and let's look at this real quick. So 3 is duality,